Okay, everyone, in this lesson, we are going to focus on X, the sound it makes, and how they go on words as a prefix, and Latin roots, and the prefix sub. Let's start with X. And so what sound does it make, boys? X, right? X. Okay, so if we look at this word, excess, it's saying X, and we're going to focus on EX saying X for right now because it says different sounds. EX says X, but see how right here is a consonant. So most of the time, if you see EX and it's followed by a consonant, it's going to say X, all right? And so that's how you would read it, excess. So, can you hear two S's in there? Excess. You can hear two S's. And so, but we never spell EXS. Even though you hear EXS, we don't spell EXS. I'm sure there's a word out there that has an exception, but as a rule, we do not spell our words that way, okay? So, if you hear a double S, you want to spell that with a C, and then you know it's going to have a E, I, or a Y followed it because it cannot be an S. It's not going to be an S. Okay? Do you guys get that? So, if you hear a double S sound, you know it's going to be a C and then an E, I, or a Y. Now, this is a Latin prefix, and this ses is a Latin root. And you need to memorize that EX is a Latin prefix and ses is a Latin root, and this will go on lots of Latin roots. Okay? Hexane. It's the same thing in the middle of a word. Here, X, but you're going to spell the next syllable. You do not spell E-X-S-A-N-E. You spell it E-X, and then here you hear the next syllable, ain, and then spell it. Spell the next syllable that you hear.
Annie.
Okay? All right. Express. See? E-X-P. We do not do E-X-S-P-R-E-S-S. You need to know how to spell press, and you need to know how to spell X. And you just put them together. This is a Latin prefix. This is a Latin root. Execute. If you see EX, oftentimes with a consonant right here, it's going to say X, but not in lots of words though too. Like X-E-cute. So, this is the next syllable. So you're going to say X, but we do not spell it E-X-S. We spell it with the next syllable that we hear. And that's with the E. Okay? Excerpt. You spell it with the next syllable that you hear. We do not spell it E-X-S. Excerpt. You can hear two S's in that. Excerpt. It separates in these words that have the double C's. Hexapla. Here, you can hear the EXS in the middle of a word, but you do not spell it. You spell it with the next syllable. Hexagon. See, there's no EXS there. Exhalant. See, this is a consonant. There's no S here. Flexagon. Do you see an S right there? No, we do not spell it EXS. Spell it with the next syllable. Flexitime. There's no S here. Extrusion, that's a consonant. There's no S here. So it's saying X. So if you see a word and it has X in it, and it's followed by a consonant, you know it's going to say X. So, but if it's followed by a vowel, it can say two different sounds. And here's the other sound it can say when it's followed by a vowel. So look at X, but this one is going to say eggs. Now this happens when it's followed by a vowel. And why that happens, okay, so you hear X. What is the last sound that you hear? The EX, well, the X sound. So you're right, the last sound is the S sound, the S sound. And so what happens with the S sound, when you have a vowel that follows an S sound, that forces that S sound to turn to a Z sound or eggs. See, do you hear that? Eggs. And this vowel is forcing this X to change. And it's saying eggs. Exert. Right here. That is. So if you're trying to read a word like this, you guys, make sure that if you see it followed by a vowel, you say eggs. Just try it and say exert. Exalt. See, it's a vowel. This vowel is changing the sound of that X sound. Exist. So we do not spell words E-G-G-S, because I've seen so many children spell E-G-G-S. I've seen them spell E-G-S. So make sure, because most children know how to spell an egg. This is the only way, this is the only time. But this says egg or eggs. That's what this says. So we don't spell eggs like that. If it's followed by a vowel, you need to make sure it's spelt with an EX, like exist. You hear eggs, make sure you do not spell it with that S or EGS, EX, and then spell the next syllable. Exile, exhaust, what happened here? Well, that's a consonant. Why is it saying eggs if eggs forces it with a vowel?
I think the H is silent.
Nice, Daniel. It's because the H is silent. And so this should be a true sight word. It should be a spelling word. And lots of these should really be spelling words. But this one, you wouldn't be able to spell it. How I have seen kids spell this, children, adults, young teenagers, they want to spell it E-G-S-O-S-T. That's how they want to spell exhaust. If anybody that has a difficulty with spelling would spell it that way. Exempt. See? No E-G-G, you spell it E-X and then focus on the next syllable. And the next syllable, you know it's going to start with a vowel. Okay? Each syllable has to have a vowel. Exam. See? There's no S there or a G there. This is the next syllable. Exalt. This word and this word, they're different words. But they say exalt, exalt, exotic. It's a vowel, but we only spell it E-X. Exhort. What happened here?
Exhort.
This is a consonant.
Silent H.
The H is silent. So, this needs to be a spelling word. Okay? Now, here's another thing that confuses people when they're trying to learn this. So we have our articles and
the.
Nice, good. These are adjectives. These set up nouns. Most of the time, 99.999% of the time, these are setting up a noun. And the other percent, maybe it's an adverb, like the 0.01%, it's an adverb. But the right here, it's the kitchen. It's that specific kitchen. But these, it's not. You have to do these correctly. So we have a couch, And then we have and couch. Now in this one, you can hear which one's wrong. Which one's wrong?
And couch.
And couch. So the reason why is because this is a consonant.
An animal.
So you do the A with a consonant, and with a vowel. So you do and with a vowel. So think of a word with a vowel. Let's, nice, I like that. Let's do an animal.
An animal.
Okay, so see how this is a vowel and it goes with an. So, but then you're gonna have things that are tricky. How about hour? Is that correct?
No.
No, you need to do an hour. Why?
And an hour. Because the H is silent.
Because the H is silent. So you're going to have words like this. And so the same kind of concept here, right here. Exhort, exhume. That H is silent. These are spelling words. Exaggerate. So now look at this. X. Do we have an S right here? Eggs. Do we have an EGS? Do we have an EGGS? No. That is a vowel. So if you hear eggs, most likely you're going to spell it exaggerate. So this EX, we're not spelling it EGS, right? We're not spelling it EGGS. If you hear eggs, especially at the beginning of a word, you guys, you spell it EX and then you figure out the next syllable. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Example. EGS. Is that spelled like that? Eggs. Example. No.
EG. No.
And then the next syllable. Focus on the next syllable right here. All right? So, when you hear X, you do not spell it EKS. You do not spell it EXS. When you hear eggs, you do not spell it EGS, EGGS. You spell XEX or eggs, EX. That's how you spell X or eggs. And then you focus on your next syllable, but you don't spell it with that S. Be really careful with that. Tighten your belt and practice your spelling words, you guys. It is so important that you practice your spelling words. You can't just have spelling rules. You have to practice your spelling words. Okay, also X can mean no longer, like ex-president or ex-wife or ex-girlfriend. It means that's no longer available to you. You're no longer that. Okay, so knowing that, that's what that is also. All right, so now let's go into our Latin roots. I know we've gone over these, but it's important that you memorize how to spell these. If you don't truly understand their definitions, which would be so good for you to do, then at least know how to spell them. Go through and learn how to spell it. Tighten your belt and practice your spelling. Practice your Latin roots. All right, so we have the Latin root sept, as in the word accept. Now look, you can hear both of these C's. This turns to schwa. Whoops. And this is changing because this is an E, I, or Y right here. So you can hear that. But this is a double C because one is for your prefix and one's for the Latin root. That is the reason why that is doubled. Now, this sept means taken, but sept also has variations like sieve right here, and it also means taken. So you will see this in a lot also. Cur, C-U-R, say that, C-U-R.
C-U-R.
I want you guys to know how to spell cur.
C-U-R.
Sept is so much easier to spell, but you still need to know, could it be S-E-P-T? So use this as a spelling word. So if you hear sept in a word, you know it's C-E-P-T because you've practiced it. It's not S-E-P-T. C-E-P-T. C-U-R. Occurred. Now, look at this. You have a double C here. One, and see, look, this turns to schwa. So, occur. That is your main word. And this is your prefix, this is your Latin root. One for the prefix and one for the root. But you also have the doubling rule in this, you guys. This is the accented syllable. And you can hear that it's accented because this turned to schwa. We don't say occurred, we say occurred. So you know that you need to look at this, and is it a consonant, vowel, consonant? Well, it is. So it needs to be doubled when you're adding on a vowel suffix. So that will help you with your doubling. So cur means to run, or it means happened. Try to get the meanings down. So when you have, see, like it occurred, well, it happened. Does that make sense? Duct, misconduct. It means to lead. But look at this one. This is the accented syllable, misconduct. But here it doesn't really matter, even though this became the accented syllable, because see how the Latin root is last? 1, 2, 3, most of the time, the last syllable is not accented in a 3 or more syllable word, but you hear this right here, you guys. But this one doesn't matter as much. Do I double it? It doesn't matter, because consonant, vowel, consonant, that's not a consonant, vowel, consonant. It really matters that you understand that with a consonant, vowel, consonant syllable. At the end, you need to know your Latin roots. Refer. So suffered. That means to carry or bear. And you have to be really careful with this root. This one oftentimes switches back and forth. Is this accented or is this not accented? This is one of those words that will switch. These ones don't switch as much, but this one does. And so look, suffered. Well, this word right here, you can't tell if something turns to schwa. Here you can totally tell. Here you can tell. This one you can tell, even though you don't need to really tell for this one for a doubling rule. But this one you do. Is it going to be doubled? This, I feel, should be a true spelling word. Because you can't hear. The only way you can hear is, remember how we talked about if it's stressed, if the accented syllable should be stressed louder. It should be longer and louder. Suffer. But I think that's hard to hear. And so this one, I feel you should have a spelling word. So you will not spell it. Oh, you can see S-U-F, that's a Latin prefix. Oh, F-E-R, you know that's a Latin root. Oh, that's probably doubled. Be very careful with the F-E-R. And you need to remember F-E-R as a Latin root, because this is how you spell fur. And you have F-U-R. That's the nice, that's nice cuddly fur. So this is the Latin root fur.
Which one's F?
This is like the fir tree. F-E-R.
Isn't there?
That one you see at the end of lots of words.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's not a Latin root. Well, that's the Latin root, honey.
Oh.
Yeah, F-E-R is the Latin root. F-I-R, like the fir tree. F-U-R, like the animal has fur. Fuse. Confused. See how this turned to schwa? Anything that's con or anything that has a closed O or closed A, you're gonna know that that's a prefix. Confuse. It means to join, to blend. All right, as if it's a Latin root. We went over some of these in our last lesson, where fuse can be something else. Also, it's not just your Latin root. Object. Object means to throw, or you could hear it object, or you could say object. So depending on what you're using the word for is how you're going to pronounce this word. Well, eject, reject. See, these are more words that you can have. It means to throw. Pel, impelled, drive. See, look, P-E-L. This is your Latin root right here. This is your prefix. And so is it a consonant, vowel, consonant? Right here, Daniel? So you know it needs to be doubled. That's the Latin root. Yeah,
I
sweets.
have a sentence for eject.
Okay.
I got ejected out of the spaceship.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's perfect. I was actually thinking something like that too. And that means you're being thrown, right? Exactly. Ply, reapply. A double P here. One for the root and one for the prefix. You have two prefixes on this word. It means to bend. Pulse, repulsive. It means to drive, like you're driving somebody away. This, see right there? Insist, insist. That means you want them to stay. I insist that you come. You want them to stay. Struct, construct. See how this one turned to schwa? But things like this, you don't have to worry about. If it's a consonant vowel consonant is when you worry if it's a doubling rule, right? So construct means to build, assemble. Verse, the word reverse, turn or bend. Now I put pulse in here because we went over some Latin roots in our last lesson, and here's another one that does the same thing, where it can mean something completely different. It can be its very, very own word. So Paul's pulse went down after he stopped exercising. All right, so that's the pulse here. Oh, your pulse is strong. You have a really strong pulse. Yeah. Remember, what's dis mean?
What?
What does dis mean?
Not.
Or apart. What does dis mean? I want you guys to remember this.
Not or apart.
Not or apart. What does dis mean?
Part or not.
Or part or not. What does dis mean?
Part or not.
Okay, so when you see this as a prefix, that's what you know it means. And it will help you. It's going to go on your Latin roots. All right, so now I'm going to have you focus on the Latin prefix sub. It means below. Say that. Sub means below.
Sub means below.
Now we need to remember all of the other prefixes that have the same meaning that's going to go on different roots. Some, it's going to go on the root that starts with an M. Okay? Sus. These can go on P's or S's. Okay? Like suspect. These will go on C, suck, sup, sir, suff, sug. All right, these will go on G's, these will go on F's, these will go on R's. So you need to have these memorized. Let's go through these, Daniel and Paul. Sup, some, sus, suck, sup, sir, suff, sug.
Under.
It means under. It means below, it means under. It means under, it means below. Below, under, below, it doesn't matter. Whichever word you're putting it on, whatever root you need it to be is what it's going to be. You need to memorize how to spell these, you guys.
I already know how to.
All of them. You need to study these and know them. All right? These will go on Latin. Okay, so for instance, subject, submit, suspect, succeed. See here, you can hear both of those C's. Supply. See how it has the double P? This is a doubling rule. But not the consonant vowel consonant, what most people say is the doubling rule. This is one for the prefix, one for the root, right? One for the prefix, one for the root. Suffer. One for the prefix, one for the root. This part is easy to remember that this is doubled. But fur is that harder one. Which one is this one? Is the R doubled on this word? If I want to say suffered, do we need to double this?
No.
No, because suff is longer and louder. This is the stressed syllable right here. We don't double it. But sometimes in other words, this is doubled. So if I want to say suffering, we don't double it. because right here is the stressed syllable. It's the accented syllable. The stressed means it sounds longer and louder when it is said. So you might be able to hear it like that, but I wouldn't count it on. I would not count on that, being able to hear it. You need to practice your spelling on that. Okay, so also it represents other meanings like beneath, close to, like as in suggest. So that's what see how you can have beneath, it could be close to. Just means to carry. You're making something that's beneath. It's just a suggestion. It's not something that you're going with. All right, everybody. That's it for this lesson. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye, everybody.